We are continuing our 3D part 2 class, design, develop, and deploy. So we spend most of our time implementing or building or developing in Anypoint Studio. And in the previous classes, we started looking from designing in Design Center, bringing it to Anypoint Studio, and deploying it Cloud Hub. So we are looking at the full API lifecycle management, and we have this chart that we saw in the beginning of the class. So it shows the API lifecycle management. And let me have my pointer. Where is it? Give me a sec. So in here, most of the time we spend is in this part, building. See, we saw the different connectors, data transformation, data weave, and so on. And in the previous classes, we started looking at the central part, this part. So designing in Design Center and simulating it. Simulating it means trying it in the API console, sharing it, getting feedback, and validating the feedback, iterating until you get a finalized design here. And then from this part, we get a final API specification YAML file. So this one is what we get from Design Center and testing it with example data. And once we have the finalized YAML specification, we import it to Anypoint Studio. Now the process is building, we cycle building and testing. Once we build and test, then we deploy it. It could be to Cloud Hub, it could be to on-premise or hybrid. We deploy it and we make sure only it is secure, only people who have permission can use it. And also we monitor how it is working, see if there are any issues and troubleshoot them, manage it by scaling it up when traffic is high or scale it down based on the traffic requirements. So this is the full API lifecycle management. So in these classes, we are implementing all the steps, starting from the design. The central part is called designing, implementation, which is this part, the building and testing, and management, which includes different tasks, this external part. So this is the full API lifecycle management that we are looking at. So let's continue from, there are a couple of pointers that I want to finalize from yesterday's class before we start today's class. So we will see about scaffolding, what scaffolding is, and also we will see publishing from Design Center to Exchange, testing it. Also, we can import to Anypoint Studio from Exchange, making it public or private in Exchange. Let's quickly look at this, and then we are going to start today's class, which is a more real-world API implementation. So bear with me. Let me open my Anypoint Studio. Anypoint Studio is here. And let me go to Design Center. So this is what we did yesterday in the previous two classes. We have, I have this specification. So just you push it to Exchange. Here we have the different parts of Anypoint platform. We are working with Design Center, and you can push your API to Exchange. We'll see these other parts also. So if you just click here, publish, it goes to Exchange, it gets published to Exchange. And I click it, publish. Now I can specify the version, the asset version, the API version. whether it is a stable version or development version. Stable version is like ready to consume if it is kind of finalized, whereas development is still in development. There could be some bugs to fix. So let's call it stable. Now I just click publish, then I will get it in Exchange. Publish, and until this publishes, let me open another tab and go to Exchange. Let's see if it got published, saving a new version. Maybe I have published it before. So if you come here, so if you come to Exchange, yeah, this one is what I just pushed. Here you see fish is mine, so this is private. My projects that I published, I will get them here. My account expired today, so I created a new one. That's why there is nothing here except this one that we pushed today. And there are also here provided by MuleSoft different kinds of connectors, API fragments, and different things. From this, we are going to consume these different things and practice with them. So this one, as you can see, this one is private. If I just click it here, we get, what do we get? There is, if you want, you can download it from here. And we see we see it is private here. We see the version v1 1.0.x. It is stable release. We can also make it development if you want to change the setting here. And also here there is API console here also. We can test it in Exchange as well. It gives us the example data. So if I click this endpoint and click get, I see the query parameter, which is data, and its possible inputs are specified here. And I see an example data at the bottom. There is, I can send a request here. So you see query parameter is required. The drop down I see here, I can choose any of them. And I click send. So somewhat, if you share it to Exchange like this, if it is in the company, at the company level, people in the company will have access to this, or you can add a group of people whom you want to give access, and they can test it and give you feedback like this. So the data that it is returning here is just the dummy data, the example data, whatever, like what we said, whatever query parameter we send. Since there is no connection to actual data, it just returns dummy data. Let me remove this cookies thing. So it returns the dummy data. So this is what we tested in the Design Center API console. So we have seen 3 API consoles, right, so far. In the Design Center, in Exchange, and also in Anypoint Studio's API kit. When we imported the RAML file specification, it created API console for us. So this is Exchange. This is for discovery, to share with people in the same company or outside of the company as well. To do that, you can make it, this one, you can make it public. Now it is private, but I can just click here, and where is it? Share. If I just click share, you see either I can share it with a couple of collaborators by adding them in, by adding their emails and giving them permission to access it, or I can make it public also. Make it public. This one, now it is public. If I save it, everyone will be, if I give you the link, you will be able to access it. Let me save it and send it to you guys. For example, now share. So public, okay, let me get the URL for it. So it is this one, and see, if I give you this one, try what you see. Where is it? Oh, here. Yeah. So this one should be public. And from here, we can import the API specification from Exchange and also from Design Center. So let's see. So I will create another new project just for testing. So W3 schools 2, let me call it. And in this import API specification, we can import here. See here, there is in here, it says import a published API on the left in this part under API implementation. I cannot highlight it, unfortunately. There is import a published API. So I can import from Exchange or import a RAML from local file. If you have downloaded it from your account, you can import it from local file, or you can import it from Design Center. And that's what we did last time. Let me see if I'm connected here. Okay, so this one, if I just click, we imported and it created the flows for us. So for API Kit flow to create flows for you, this one should be checked, the scaffold flows from this API specifications. If this one is unchecked, it will not create flows for you. That's what I wanted to show you. So let's uncheck it. And for example, we can, as we said, we can import from Design Center or a published one from Exchange. If you just click this plus sign from Exchange, then it should give you what you have in Exchange. W3. Okay, I guess my account, it is using the old account. So let me import from Design Center here. So click. And if I do like this, now it is just going to import the file, and it will not create flows for me. Not responding. This should be done quickly. Let's see. Probably my account expired yesterday. Okay, it's working. Okay, so this is our new project. No flows. It didn't create any flow, as you can see. W3 schools 2. This is a new project. Let me close this one. And this one is old one also. So here it didn't create anything, as you can see. But what it did is it imports the RAML. We can get the RAML data somewhere. Let's see, it is under, if we come here under API, here we have the RAML. So in here, if you uncheck the scaffold from API specification, and if it imports it like this, then you just click here, go to Mule, and you click here, generate flows from RAML. So if I do that, after I do this, then it is going to create. This is, it says scaffolding configuration, which was unchecked when we imported the specification. So now it is scaffolding. Scaffolding means just creating flows from specification. So as you can see, it has created flows for us from the specification. So that's one thing that I wanted to show you. Yeah, I have to make sure scaffolding is selected, checked, the checkbox. So that is what scaffolding is. From Design Center, when you import, you make sure it is checked. But if you have RAML in your computer, or if you didn't select it when you import, you can just right-click on the RAML and click generate flows from RAML. The second point, we saw publishing it to Exchange, testing it, and making it public. You can also import it to Anypoint Studio. Even if mine didn't import because of the account clash, I guess I can import from the public ones. For example, let me show you. So Exchange, you can import those provided by MuleSoft, for example, and learn or practice try to understand what they are doing. So like, for example, there is this common training, American flight test training. Let's import that. I will close this. I don't need this. I will shut it off, delete it. So when you delete, by the way, when you delete, if you don't check this box, it deletes it from Anypoint Studio, but it will be in the workspace, and you cannot create the same project again. So if this is temporary thing and you want to delete it from your computer also, make sure you have this is checked. Delete project contents on disk, cannot be undone. So now I removed it. Now let's import from Exchange, from the public ones. So I come here again, test 45. I'm just giving it random project name. So you come here, you have plus sign from Exchange. I will select from the public APIs. There is American. Let me see. Yeah, this training, for example, this is used for training and it is public. Now you can import it and see what it generates. So finish, scaffold flows is selected, as you can see. If this is not selected, as we said, it will just generate flows for us. It will not generate flows for us. It will rather import the RAML only. So click finish. Now we will see what it is going to generate for us. It imports the files, the RAML files, examples and the dependencies, and also it generates flows for us. So it is good to practice like this. It generated all these flows. Flows. Let me collapse this. So if we do this, so we have all these flows. This one is the main one. This is the console. So you see, so per method, it generates a flow. We say per method, per resource method combination. So we have flight's ID, for example, the first one and the second one, they have two submethods, put and delete. It has two methods, put and delete, two flows, that means per method and resource ID combination. Flight is also, there is also get here for the flight's ID. We have get for the flighters, we have post for flighters also, and we can see the RAML as well. If we go here, come here, and in here is, if I just click here, let's see the file. Yeah, here it is. So if I just click this, I can see the RAML code. Let me open it. Okay, that's the wrong one. This one, open with, where is it? Okay, it should be, okay, here, yeah. American Flighters API RAML examples is also under it. So this is zip. The zip file is, if it is zip, then it is nested. There are files inside it. So under these examples also, we have the examples. We'll see examples today, but this one is the API, API specification. So I can open it. And if I do that, you see here is the RAML. So what we said is for flighters, it has get and post. So it generated two flows for it. For ID under flighters, it has get, delete, and put. So it generated three flows from it. So we have five flows. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, and this is the main one, the API kit in 3 point, and this is a console. So yes, you can import from Exchange also and practice with the public, using the public APIs, and also using whatever you push it to Exchange as well. So let me delete this also. Delete it. Now, today we are going to start a new topic. This one also, you don't need it. So today, we are looking at, okay, so today we will look at this one. Let's see. Where did my printer go? Let me see. One second. Okay. So our second main topic for today is this one. Struggling to get the highlighter. Probably I will do that. This okay. So the requirements are specified here. We are going to create a customer's API with the following functionality. Get all the customers in the database. So we will have the data in a database. So this is more real world. The data could be in a database in AWS, in Google GCP, or in Azure, or on-premise, some database that is accessible from the internet. So let's say there is customers table in some database. So we'll create an API that returns, one of its functionality will be returning all the data in the database, and also not all data, but just if you just give it a specific ID as ERI parameter, also it should return the data for that ID. And we should also be able to insert multiple customers. If you have data on a couple of customers, we should be able to insert those data into that database. Also, we should be able to insert a single customer record into that data, and also delete a single customer with these all messages. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flows. It should generate 5 flows for us. So what are we going to do in Design Center? We will specify the RAM with this functionality. We will use also example data. So we'll use example data. We'll add it as a dependency and reference it, rather than putting the example data in line in the code. We will first have a file, example data files, and reference them, then brings that RAM to Anypoint Studio. And from Anypoint Studio, we are going to connect, so implement the RAM by connecting to MySQL database. We will start with local MySQL today, and next time we'll make it with AWS RDS. With MySQL in AWS RDS, we saw this in the previous classes, how to connect Anypoint Studio with MySQL in AWS RDS. So good if you watch that video again, if you didn't do so. And then once we finalize our building process, our implementation process in Anypoint Studio, we are going to deploy it or push our application to Cloud Hub. And then we are going to secure it, monitor it, and everything. So that by the end of this class, we will have done everything in here, starting from designing, testing in API, in the Design Center API console, validating it, making sure it is working. We'll assume also we got necessary feedback, then that will give us API specification. That API specification, we take it to Anypoint Studio. We build in Anypoint Studio by adding connectors to databases and all the connection properties, and we test it. We make it works fine. Then we push it to Cloud Hub. We have to make sure it is secure, and only people with necessary permissions are allowed to use it. And we will monitor it. We should be able to get usage history over time, who is like the traffic, and also see how to troubleshoot it and generally how to manage it. So it will include the full API lifecycle management. So this is the requirement. Still, the process here are the same. The API specification in Design Center, testing it, flow generation in Anypoint Studio using API Kit, enhance the flows in Anypoint Studio, connect to databases, test it. We don't need this, generate various errors and understand the corresponding error codes. This one, since we did it last time, we don't know, it is the same thing. Then deploy to Cloud Hub, test it, secure it, and monitor and manage it. Monitor and manage it. So we will have all these tasks. We may not finish it today. We will finish it next time. But make sure you also get your hands dirty by practicing this, by implementing it yourself also, and seeing for yourself, because you may encounter some errors and so on, and you learn more by doing from the errors. Generally, we learn more by doing. So I will go to here, to Design Center, and I will give you 15 minutes break, starting from 4 to 4:15 maybe. So let's go to Design Center. So we are creating, we are calling it customers. So create new API specification. We'll call it customers. By default, it brings this American Flights API customers. And we will just accept the default. We are using RAML 1.0. There is also RAML 0.8 that we want to use. The most recent one. Why should we use 0.8 while we have 0.1? While we have 1.0? And create API. Okay. So a couple of things here. We say here, this is a file explorer, this is the editor, this is the shell, this is the API console. In this file explorer, you see files here. You can add different dependencies, example files, for example. Rather than putting the examples here in the editor in line, where the examples could be many lines, and that we could make your code very long and difficult to understand and fix errors, you can divide it into chunks and put them as fragments here. Those fragments, then you reference them in the code. So that is what we are going to see. Today we are going to see with referencing examples, and we'll see with referencing data types, different types of data types, errors, and so on. So we have the title is customers. Let me see the zoom level so that you can see it clearly. It is customers. Okay, and so I click the enter, it shows here in the shelf, you see different things. Let's see, for example, I want to add description. What shall I call this? This API retrieves data from a database. Okay, retrieves data from a database, retrieves data from a database. I want to use inserts also. Retrieves from, let me do it like this. Inserts into, and deletes from. Data from a database. Okay, let's do like this. From a database. So that is the description. This is just for us to know what it does. Now let's create the different resources. And in the specifications here, we have a get method that gets all the data in the database. There is also a get method that gives specific ID, data for a specific ID. Let's start with this one. Let's start with this get all record this. So I will come here. So my resource here is, I will call it customers. We say it starts, a resource starts with / and ends with a colon. Now the method it should support is get. As you can see under methods, I see get here. Then it adds colon and it indents it. Next, what I need is response. So there is responses here. See how easy it is. Under responses, it gives me the different HTTP codes. So for 200, the body, I want it to be JSON, application JSON. And then I want to give it examples. So the example is we are going to save it as a file. Let me put it like this and leave this here. First, let's add examples data here. How do we do that? On the file browser section here, you click this plus sign, so plus sign, new file, new folder. Let's create new folder called examples. And under that folder, we are going to add examples files. So new folder, I will call it examples, create. See, the folder is here. So you see this one, it says root file. The RAM of this one is my root file, my dependencies. It is good practice to put them in their respective folders. And we have created a folder for examples, and we will put files under it. So now click add. Now I need to add examples for single record and also multiple records as an object and also as an array. So new file. Now file type, you see this here. Here there is file type. In the drop down, I want to select example. And the example name here, what shall I, the file name, let's call it customers examples. You can do it a customers examples. So click create. Now it creates this file for me. And I add record this here. Let's export data and add examples here. So I have, let me see if I have MySQL Workbench open. Okay, I will open it and log in here. We'll export examples from here. And so we will use the customers data. It is this one, customers table. So it has this field. Just let's export 2 recorders. So I just do limit 2 and run in. Just gives me this 2. Now I can save it as CSV or JSON. I have done that. Now let me copy paste the example I have exported like that. And to save time, I will just put it here. So we put examples like this. When we have multiple recorders, so this is YAML based. Indentation is important. When you have multiple recorders, you separate them by dashes here. So I add value colon here. This is one example, which will correspond to 1 row in here, 1 row. And this is another example. And let me explain a couple of things here. So we just put the examples, the fields are here, the different fields you have, and then colon followed by a value, and question mark means optional. If this question mark is not there, then this is mandatory. All the fields must be there, otherwise it will fail. If you make it optional, if it is there, it accepts it. If it is not there, also it is fine. The reason that I'm doing this is, so we have post method and get method. In the get, we are going to get the customer ID as well. Whereas in the post method, we don't want to include an ID, just the database will include the raw number. So this example, I can use it for both the get and post messages. That's why I added a question mark. So this one, I think it is readable. You just add value here, colon, then you have dash, indent, one example here of key value pairs, and followed by dash, again, indent, and another example. If it is just one example, you don't need this dash, just you put this one, and that's it. So now, as you can see the location. Where is it now? This file, I want to put it under examples, but it is on the, if you will, on the home location. So just drag and drop it from here to the examples folder. Now it is under examples. As you can see, when I collapse examples, I don't see the file. So we have customers examples, as you can see. And let's also create another one with a single example called customers examples. So click again. I would just click here, new file. It is again example. We see the other ones here also, especially the data type and resource type and the trade. Let's focus on example for today. Again, example. Now this one is single example. So for getting a single record, so this one I will call it customers example rather than examples. So customers example, and you just export single record. And I have an example here, so I will copy paste it. We have this one. So the difference with the previous one was in here. First, if we have multiple examples, we add dash, we indent this by clicking tab, and then again come to the same level of the previous dash and add another dash, and add another by indenting, add another example. That was what we did with multiple examples, whereas with single example, let me undo this. It is just like this. It should be very easy. So you add this, then key value example data, one row basically, and this one question mark again, so that we can use it for both get and post messages. You will see why this is the case. So this example also, as you can see it is here, but I want to put it under examples folder. So drag and drop it under examples. Now, if I collapse this, as you can see, I don't see the examples, they are here. So the advantage of having, now let's get to the root file. The advantage of having the examples in a folder like this is, if I am to add all these lines of code in the main code in line, see, just this examples by itself is more than 15 lines of code. But if I externalize it, if I put it in a folder like this, I can reference that file. And here I just write only one line. Just one line. And how do we do that? We use include exclamation. You see here, when I started with exclamation, it shows me its suggestion. So exclamation include. Now we put the path to the examples file, and the examples is not at the same level as the customers file, but rather it is the file, this file. I want to use this file, right? So it is not at the same level as the root file, but rather it is under examples. So how do I do that? I write examples, it gives me suggestions here, examples. And under examples, what do I have? See in the shelf. It gives me under examples folder, I have this one and this one. And this get is for getting all recorders. So I need these customers examples YAML file. So this one is one. So we are done with this get method. So the main thing we have seen now is externalizing the example data in a file, in examples file under examples folder. So get is done. Now let's add post also. So under the same level as get, you see, it gives me the suggestions here. This is very handy, post. And under post also, I have, we are sending data. So I want to specify the input body, and the body, I want it application JSON. I want to send it as JSON, is basically what I'm saying. And I want to give examples of what it should look like when we send multiple recorders. So it is this one. Just copy paste it here, bring it here. Here it gives an error. This is very tricky. Here there should be a space here. When you just click the recommendations, it adjusts itself. But when you type it, if you make a mistake with the spaces and so on, it underlines it like this. So you can see also here on the right, there is red. So if I just click space here, this should be fine. So the difference, I am using the same examples, right? for get method and post method, but in the post, we will not send ID, customer ID. So that's why we made the customer ID optional using a question mark. And in the post, when we send the data, we want to get some response. Was it inserted appropriately? What if it was inserted correctly? We want to get some kind of message. So this is for the input. For under post method, the data that we send, information about that. Now we have about the response also. See, if I am at the same level as the body for the input for the request that we send, now we have responses. If I just click responses, in the responses, when we insert data, the HTTP standard code is 201 by default. And I want to get a body of application JSON. I want the data that comes in to be JSON. And let's add example here, just one line. I can just add here myself message. Data was inserted successfully, for example. So this one, what it is doing is when we send data using the post method, the data should be sent in JSON format, is what we are saying. And the fields, or during testing, the example, the data that it is going to return are given here. We have examples in the response. In the response, when we send data, it should give a human readable and intuitive message. We have this message: data was inserted successfully. If it was inserted successfully, we will include for errors also, but not in this class. Okay, so we are done with these two specifications, right? These two. This one and this one. Oh, no, this one and this one. Let me, actually, my highlight, let me use background, same background for this one and this one. We did these two. Get all the customers in the database and also insert multiple customers. Now let's do this one. Get a customer with a specific ID and insert a single customer. So they are the same. They will use the same example. I will use for highlight. I will highlight them using this one. So let's do get a single customer, a customer with a specific ID. So for that, we come here again. We are almost done in this part. So under customers, let's add under customers. We want it to be under customers here. The resource, we want to call it, so it is URI parameter. So I will call it this one customer ID. So this is a URI parameter within curly braces. Now under it, I have the same thing for gettings. So I can copy paste the whole of this part. The only thing is this examples will be the example one, the single one. So let's just use a suggestion here. I have get, and so the body, I want to specify the response, what it should look like in the response with error code of 200. For get method, we want to get data. We are not sending anything. If there is header or query parameter, we specify it in the body and get before we specify responses. But we don't have any, we are not sending any header here because ID we are going to send it as a URI parameter. So the 200 HTTP code in the body, I want it to be of application JSON, and examples again, I want to put the examples here, space, include, as you can see here, then examples, that's the only folder I have, it shows me. So we created, the first one is for single example, the second one is for multiple. So we choose the first one. Now that's it with get method. We are not sending anything, but we are getting this response. And we have the post method also. By the way, as I write this messages issue on the right, it creates the endpointers. So customers has get and post messages, and the customer ID has a get method. You see that. Now let's add post method to the post is for posting a single record. The get is for getting a single record. In this case, when we're under the URI parameter. So post colon enter, it is indented. Again, it is the same thing with this post. The only difference is the example will be different. If you want, I can copy paste this and bring it here. And this example is, I will make it example. You see, because of the indentation now, it shows me it is error. So what I should do is start this. Actually, give me a sec. Let me undo this and see if I can indent all of them together. So now what's the error message as the in that it is showing? This one is 5. Okay. And I guess this one needs more indentation. So yeah, in the body, this is what the place specification for what is sent, and this one is specification for what comes back when the data is inserted. So data was inserted successfully. So now we are done with this one. Let's add the last one. Delete a single record. We don't want to delete the whole table. We just want to delete a specific ID. So let's add that one, and then we will test it, and we will take break, and then bring it to Endpoint Studio, see what flows it creates, and then connect it with database and test it. And that will be enough for today. And next time, next class, connect it to database in the cloud and push it to Cloud Hub and secure it and monitor it. So let's add deleting a single record, and here also I will make it as customers. I will put it as single record. So for a specific customer ID, I want to delete or post. I mean, I want to get a specific record or send a specific record or delete. So it should be at the same level as this post and this get, because it acts on this resource. So they should be, this message should be on the same level. So here, it should be here. It shows me the messages I can use. It doesn't show post and post and get because already I have used them. These are the other messages that I have not used that it shows. So I want to delete, and so for delete in the body, we want to send an ID. Let me see. We want to send a specific ID. I don't see, what do I see here? And the body, delete, maybe I made some mistake. Get, post. This delete is not at the same level, I think. Yeah, that was the error. Okay. I guess now enter. Now I see body. I was looking for this one. So what do I say? This is specification of what it should look like of the data that is sent. I want to send an ID, specific ID. So let me put application JSON is what I send, and I want to put an example because this is a single line. So for example, I can send customer ID 1 or customer ID 100, for example. That is the format of the data that is sent. So it is going to delete a customer with this ID from the database. So this is what is sent in the response. It just should say the customer was successfully deleted. So we come here, and this delete message at the same level as body. We have responses here. and the error code of 201 in the body, we want in JSON format, and our example should simply say message singularly called was singularly called, or customer with specified, let's put like this, customer with provided ID was deleted, for example. So that's it. Now, yeah, cool. So we have, now we can test it here. We have the different endpoints. It shows endpoints here. We have this with 2 methods, this with 3 methods. Now, when we import this to Endpoint Studio, we expect 5 flows in addition to the main API kit and the console. Now we can test it here first. So just like the mocking service, we can enable mocking service, make it public, send it to people and so on. But here, let's just test this first. Get, and if I click try, it is going to return the data in the customer's examples folder. We don't have any query parameter, no header. So just click send. See the examples it returns. Since we specified we want it as JSON, it got the data from the examples folder and it returned it as JSON, as you can see. And to go to the previous one, just click these 3 dashes you see here. Post is also here. So for post, let's try it. Here is the examples data that this is like data that is the format of the data that will be sent. And when I click try it and send it, it should say simply data was successfully inserted to database. This should be what it should give me. Let me see, my screen is cluttered. Okay, so let's try it. Try. Now this is the data, and let's click send. What do I get here? You see, message data was inserted successfully. In the training MuleSoft they use, but not really. So since this is not real data insertion, we can add here, but not really. This is just to mock it, otherwise data is not being inserted in reality. So that's it. Let's try the other ones also, other endpoint here. If I just click get now, try this one, it is going to return a single record because the example we have is a single record. See the previous one was an array. We had 2 objects within square brackets, but now we just have 1 object. So if I just click try it, and what am I trying? Customers. Oh, okay, yeah, it's okay. That's right. We are trying this one, so we have to specify the URI parameter. URI parameters are here. It is required, as you know. Here, let me provide any value. Whatever value I insert, I will get the same response. This one. I thought it was query parameter and I was confused. Okay, you can try. So when we implement it in the Endpoint Studio, it should return the actual data for the specified ID, but in here, we are just testing it with this example. And whatever ID I put here, it should return the same example as you can see here. Now, after break, like after we'll start at 4:20, from 4:20 to 4:50 or something. We are going to bring this, to import it, scaffold it to Endpoint Studio, it will create the flows for us and modify the flows, connect them to database and test it, and we will stop there. So yeah, this one, if you just practice it, it is easy. It needs practicing. So you have to practice more, otherwise it is more human readable. And we are looking at all the stages. By now, I think you should have a very good understanding of API development using Endpoint Studio, from end to end, because we have seen almost everything. And if you are planning to take the certification, by now you should be ready for the certification. What you need to do is review all the previous Google slides, watch videos, watch the videos again if you forgot some of the concepts, and for sure you should be able to ace the certification. So yeah, let's take 15 minutes break, then we'll meet at 4:20. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Tom, I see your question now. How did you import the examples from Workbench? So just you have these. Oh, let me share my screen. Apologies. Share my screen. And here is a Workbench. It gives me 2 examples. For example, I want to export this, like what we were doing before. Click export records to an external file, and can save it as CSV or JSON. I think JSON is easier in this case. And just click save. And I have a file already exported, but let me just click and overwrite it to show you. Now I will go ahead and open it. So you just copy paste this one for one example, and both of them for multiple examples for the examples file. You separate them by dash when you take this and this, and also I removed these ones from the field names, like the quotations under the field names. So that's how I did that. Let me show you. So here under the customer's API specification, if we see under examples, let me click. This one is the first one I see. So this one, just copy pasting this object and removing the quotations. And for this one, bring them both together, separating them by dash, but each one of them should be indented from this dash. Okay, perfect. Now let me ask you a couple of questions. So I have this one. Take your time, read it, and give me responses. A RAM example fragment named bank accounts example.ram is placed in the examples folder. So there is a folder called examples in an API specification project. What's the correct syntax to reference the fragment, the examples fragment? Examples, colon, exclamation, or hash, you see. B and D, they have hash, whereas A and C, they have exclamation. The difference between A and C is A doesn't give, it just considers as if the file is on the same level as the root file, whereas in C, it puts first the examples folder, it puts the correct paths, this one. So let me see, the answer is, yeah, perfect. Yep, we have to specify the complete paths, whatever, you can give it whatever it is. It could be deep, even nested subfolders. In that case, also we have to specify the correct path. Okay, that's one question. So now we will import the specification we wrote to Anypoint Studio. So the question I have for you is the next one. How many private flows does API how many private flows will API key generate from the RAM specification we just wrote for the customers API? Let me show you. Customers API is this one, the RAM specification. Let me make sure you can see it. I will maybe zoom out a little bit. See it now. So the question is, how many private flows do you expect? By just seeing this specification, you can give your answers. How many private flows do you think it will generate for us? We have customer's resource with get and post messages, and also we have customer ID nested resource with get, post, and delete message. Perfect. Yes, it should generate 5. Let's see, because it is per message, per resource per message. So let's go ahead and import it. So this one that I will call it design, develop, deploy to, and push it to GitHub. So design, did I use dash? Okay, design, develop, and deploy. So we want to import this scaffold flows from this API specifications is checked. Download RAML from Design Center. I think it is showing a different account. Let me add my new account. Add account and fish deck 2022. I guess the password, I don't remember it. I have to go to, yeah, okay. Copy password. We're here. Sign in. It works. Okay, perfect. So we see them here. Customers. So it is this one. Select it and click OK. Now we should generate the flows for us when I click finish at the bottom here. Finish. Yes, so here we have the API kit. Router, if it's the listener, /API/***, like what we see. We saw in the previous classes. These are different error messages. Can collapse it. We have the console here. So the console also has its own error handler here. So let's count the flows here. We have one for delete under customers, customer ID. Another one we have get from customers. Another one we have get from customers, customer ID. Another one we have post for customers and post for customers, customer ID. Yes, so 5. Let's collapse it, and that is easier to count. We don't include the top 2 because they are main in the console. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Now let's expand it and implement it. Expand all. So let's, what do we need here? We want to connect to databases. So we'll create flow references with additional private flows. So the first thing I need from here is let's implement the get customers first. This one, this get customers. Let's add. Okay. Before in the previous class we were connecting to MySQL, so I will copy paste the configuration from there, and I will connect to Workbench, just local MySQL today, but since we are going to push it to Cloud Hub, if it is in local MySQL, since it will not work, we'll use AWS RDS. And I have this get data from MySQL flows that we built in the previous classes. And we have this configuration file that we are using. So these are my credentials for my local MySQL. I will copy this and move it to here. And source main resources, just paste it here. Paste. So I have it here. Now I can close. This. I don't need this either. Let me close this flow project also. Now let's create connection to MySQL, to my local MySQL. So the first thing, we go here under global elements. We say first we create configuration properties. So here under global configurations, we have configuration properties. I want to reference that file called config.yaml. So that it knows what I am referencing to, config.yaml. Now we can add connector configuration to my local MySQL. Create connector configuration. We did this before. So wait, to MySQL connector. Oh, I have to drag and drop here. Let's see. I have to add the database module from here to here and accept the most recent version. So here now, if I click create connector configuration, I see database config now. So select that, and we want to connect to MySQL. We want MySQL connection. We can call it, that's the only database we have, we don't have multiple database, so we can call it database config. And it needs a driver, just click add Maven dependency, then it will import it itself. Now here we're using the $signs, like $sign. So in the configuration file, it is called MySQL. So mysql.host, like this $sign using curly braces. Let me copy. Okay, the reason is, if I open this, you see here, MySQL node, it has under it host, password, user, database, and port. So mysql.host will give this value. MySQL.password will be this value. MySQL.user will be this value, and so on. Okay, so let's come and finish this one. MySQL.host, MySQL.port, and MySQL.user, and MySQL check show password, MySQL.password. This should be case sensitive and exactly as it is spelled in the config file. The database, MySQL.dbase, I'll check this, MySQL.dbase. Okay, I will look this connection first. I have to check which database I'm using. So, okay, I want to work with this customers table. So it is under the MuleSoft database. I just need to edit the config file. So I have this config file. My database is MuleSoft. Don't need this. And see, it is local host. This is my password. Root database. Okay, let's test the connection now. Can come here and click edit and test connection. Yes, so it connects to that database. So now, okay. So let's collapse this. We want, let's first implement getting customers, this one. You see there is this example that you see here, this example data from the API specification. We will remove this and overwrite it by actual data from the database. So here, since this simple one, we can create subflows, private flows, and flow reference, but just we can also drag and drop it here because it is not that complicated. So I will drag and drop, select operation here. It is to return all the customers. So get all customers, just display name as you can see. Here's the connector. This is the only configuration I have. Now in the SQL query text, SQL comes again here. Since it is for getting all the recorders, I don't want to specify, I don't have anything to specify in the input parameters. What I just do is select star from the table name, which is customers. So this one will return all the records in the customers table. And then in our RAM specification, we said it should be transformed, it should be in JSON format. So this one, JSON, let me just do like this. And this one, I will remove it and add the payload. If I do like this, so what's happening is when we send a request to this API kit, it will route it. If it is for all customers, it will route it to this flow. This connector will get the data from the database for all recorders, and this one is transforming the JSON, the payload. By default, data from database, MySQL database is in Java format, an array in Java format. So here we are transforming it to JSON. So this is implemented. The first implementation is this one. Second one, let's implement this one. Get customers for a specific ID. This one for a specific ID, let's see what we have here. See this one, URI params.customer ID, because we are going to send it as a customer ID URI param. So it is creating this one. If you see this one, it is not payload. It is saving it as a variable. What is it calling it? Customer ID. See here, customer ID variable. So we will use this one. And in here, it has that dummy example. This one will remove it. So let's again drag and drop select here. And this one get data for provided ID. Connector is the same to that database. In here now, though, we put select star from customers. Now we have where the customer ID. This is a columns. Yeah, this customer ID, uppercase C and ID. Okay, where customer ID equals to this key. We can give it whatever name we want. Given ID, yes, or provide ID. And what is this given ID? We want to put it, we have to put it as JSON, as a key value pairs here. This ID corresponds to this, they have it here, this one, attributes.uri parameters.customer ID. So I bring it here and paste it here. We have seen all these things in previous classes. If you forget them, you can review it. Otherwise, all these things we spent ample time on them. So it should be easy. So what are we doing now? We need record this from the customers table, and there is this where clause for a specific ID. So we use where customer ID is, we provided it using colon and any key name. And the value of that key name, we define it in the input parameters box here. And since the URI parameter, since the customer ID is coming as a URI parameter, you see attributes.URI parameters.customer ID. So this one will return data for a single record. And I will remove this one and come this again to JSON. And here just put payload, that single payload in JSON format. So we are done with the two get methods. Now let's do this post method. It is multiple records. So we can use bulk insert or just insert based on how many records we have. If it is insert, we can use for each and inside it insert, or we can use bulk insert. It depends on how many records we have. So let's just use bulk insert, drag and drop. So here, database config is here. And I will copy code from when we built bulk insert. It was, let's see what if it is this one. What do we have here? Okay, not this one. Close. Ultimating database. Okay, for each file, for each, we have also bulk insert into database. Probably it is this one. The different ways to insert data into databases. We have it here. So post method here. Single insert. This is one single insert. If it is single object, we will use insert when for the post with single object. If it is multiple object records, we can use for each. If it is reasonable number, few number, small number, for each, and in that for each we will have insert. Or we can also have parallel for each for medium-sized data. We tested with this one. Or if we have large volume also, we can use this is parallel for each. This is for parallel for each. Okay, yeah, both of them are parallel for each. We can also use bulk insert. Bulk insert. Probably let's use. We don't have large volume of data here, so let's just use, I think, for each. In for each we have this insert. So I want to copy paste this code to save time. So here, this is from the previous classes. In the SQL query text part, we want to copy this and bring it here. And oh, do I have bulk insert? I want to use for each with insert. So let me delete it. Delete, and for each is under code. For each, okay, search it for each. Bring it here, and under it from database module, just bring insert. So it is going to iterate over each records. Now I can copy the code, paste the code here, and in this part we specify the key value pairs. So I will explain this. Give me a sec. Function new function. Okay, so let me close this. Okay, so what are we doing here? We want to insert the database, and is a message here. Message data was inserted successfully. Now it is really, but not it, but we have to remove this one. So make it data was inserted successfully. Data was really inserted successfully, to make it different from the Rabel specification, because it is just actual implementation. This is just response message. I will response message. In this insert, so let's spend some time. The columns we have are customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, CD, postal code, and country. Since the data will come as JSON, we have insert into the table name. These are the fields: customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, CD, postal code, and country. I have to make sure they match. Address, CD, postal code, and country. Yes. Now in here, for the values, we specify keys. We can give whatever key names we want. We have to make sure each one of them are preceded by colon, as you can see. Then exact keys, they are values, we define them here. So customer ID is payload.customer ID because we will send the data as JSON and it will have customer ID field. So payload.customer ID will correspond to this key. This one, if I call it ABC, I should call it ABC here also. And customer name, payload.customer name, because if you see in our RAML specifications, the example, let me see the examples here. These are the fields. So customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, CD, postal code, and country. Okay, in this case, we are also sending customer ID. So, okay, let's send customer ID also. So that it gets the values from the JSON array that we send, and from each object, it gets their values and writes it to the database one by one. So now if I click save, why do I see an error here? What's that error? Fail to establish connection. Okay, I'll check the connection to the database. So far we have implemented, you can see this one, all of this we did before in the previous classes, but now we started from design center, from the RAML specification. We imported the RAML specification and we are implementing it here, or performing real implementation by connecting to database. Oh yeah, this error is because I don't have this. So click save. Now it should go away. So far we have implemented this one, get all records, get record for a single ID, post multiple records. Let's do this post a single ID, and then we will stop here and finish the rest next time, and test it next time, and move it to AWS and deploy it to Cloud Hub. But you can see anyway, all the development section we were doing in the previous classes, you can integrate them with the flows you created by importing your RAML specification. We spent most of our time in understanding how to connect databases, to get to the data from databases, and insert data to databases, the syntax, and so on. Now, with the RAML, importing it, you are creating a real-world project from end to end. So let's do this one, and then that will be it. So we are done here. Now, if it is a single record, I don't need for each. I just use insert. So see what it has written for us here. Here we have a URI parameter. For this is post. So if it is post for a single ID, we have this ID as a URI parameter. Okay. Do we need to send ID? Not really, but let's just finish it. So insert here, insert single ID, I will call it. The connection is still the same, and for inserting single ID, the code is still the same with the for each. Just copy this from both boxes, copy it, and bring this here. This one also, copy it and paste it here. So we will finish this. This should be fx. It should be an expression. Save. We will finish this in next time. In the meantime, though, think how we are integrating everything that we have been looking at so far. And this one, especially when we connect to a database in the cloud, it will be accessible for the internet, and it will be a real-world end-to-end API implementation. Let me see if you have any questions, and I think that should be enough for today.